Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the BiGDUG podcast. Thank you again for tuning in. We have a very, very exciting guest today who is going to talk all things construction, all things business, but very exciting. And I don't want to steal her thunder, but it's Michaela Wain. Michaela, well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
I didn't want to steal your thunder because I want you to explain what you do, who you are and what you've done, because it's amazing. And most people listening will know who you are, but why don't you give a brief, quick introduction for those listening who don't know who you are, what the amazing journey you've been on?
Yeah, well, thank you anyway for being so kind. Yeah, I'm Michaela Wain. I was on the Apprentice a couple of years ago where I like to say I came second because there was 2 winners that year, but I guess technically third. I'm a woman in construction. I started my own construction magazine around 11 years ago, and then I've invested in businesses. So I have a facilities management company, a utility connection company, marketing agency, a lead generation platform. And since I had the exposure of the Apprentice, then I have gone on to represent and fight for equality for women in construction and just diversity and inclusion as a whole.
Which is amazing, which is why I didn't want to steal the thunder of trying to explain that myself to everybody, because I would never have done it justice. I want to talk about the Apprentice, and I'm sure you get asked about it all the time, but I don't want to start with that. What I want to start with is what you do, what your businesses are, and this whole mission, amazing mission that you're on for the equality in women in construction. Do you want to kind of go into that a little bit?
Yeah, so basically after the Apprentice, obviously I always knew I was a woman in construction and I had experienced, I guess, discrimination to an extent, but I'd never put the label on it of discrimination. I just thought certain individuals was idiots. And I think that is what has allowed me to be successful in construction, that I never fell victim to a label or a box. So I just always continued on. Now, after the Apprentice, and this is no exaggeration, I'm going to say I had in excess of 10,000 messages, emails, inboxes,
10,000.
phone calls. Yeah, in excess of that over the course of probably 3 months, throughout from the mid-Apprentice to just after Christmas time. And it was other women in the industry asking me how they dealt with such a thing, or, you know, saying thanks for representing women in construction. And I was kind of put into this box that I didn't really know that I was in previous to the Apprentice. And I realized actually how many women are out there who was searching for a role model or just somebody to feel like they had something in common with, because for a lot of women, especially on site, you're the only woman in that company who you're working for. You may well be the only woman on site. You may well be the only woman on many sites. And so women just, you know, just like anybody, men, everybody in all different backgrounds, you always want to look for somebody who perhaps looks like yourself or is from a similar area. You know, like Northerners all resonated towards me as well, because I'm super proud of being Northern. So I think when somebody sees a bit of themselves in you, they jump on that, which is wonderful. But it also shone a light for me on how few role models there were and how few women there were in construction. And as I started to delve into this more and really look at the stats and the issues and go into the problems that women was having, that's when I thought, you know, I can use my platform and go on Big Brother, or I can use my platform and be the voice for the women who perhaps didn't have the same platform as me, which is what I chose to do.
Which is very admirable, and you kind of become the poster girl, as it were, for women in construction and really advocating it. And I cannot believe how many messages you had. That's insane.
Yeah. That's no exaggeration. Even my inbox just blew up. And I mean, there was all sorts of messages, but there would have been many. There was many more than that. But there was over 10,000 from women. From women either in construction, who had been in construction and left, who was looking to get into construction, on the cusp of construction, and a variation. Some women who just absolutely love the industry, some who had to get out of the industry, some people wanted to talk, some people wanted to ask questions, you know. So I really did my best. As you can imagine, it's a lot. So I really did my best to try to reply to as many people as possible and those who needed help to try and help them. But that's when I thought, this is on an individual basis is physically, humanly impossible for me to do. So I decided to take on a project that could tackle this on a mass scale, where I wouldn't have to, you know, mentor women individually.
Yeah, of course, which is amazing. I mean, I'm sure you've had many people ask you, how was The Apprentice? I'm not going to ask you that because I'm sure you've answered that question many times. Why did you choose to go and apply for The Apprentice in the first place?
In all honesty, my brother had been on Love Island actually,
Okay.
I think a year or two before, and he had it was the first Love Island that was
That's
on.
crazy exposure, isn't it? Like, wow.
Yeah. So it was, and he had an amazing time afterwards. It was loads of fun, and all the family was proud watching him on telly, even though it was Love Island, and it was a bit cringe at times watching my brother smooch girls. But you know, it was a wonderful experience for him. And Josh is 10 years younger than me, but it was amazing watching him. And I thought, oh God, I'd love to do something like that, but I never really would have the confidence to do. And then after Josh had done this, then, you know, everybody gets talking like, oh, you should do The Apprentice, and I had excruciating social anxiety before The Apprentice. It had got a bit better. I've got a son who's 11 now, and after I had him, I'd got over things a bit. But I mean, at one point, I didn't leave my house. It was that bad. I didn't leave my house.
Okay.
So it was extreme. It wasn't just a bit nervous. Like I couldn't actually leave my own home for about 6 months. So there'd be times in my life where I could feel these like panic and the anxieties coming back. And around the time of me applying was one of those times when if I was stressed about something, I just melted basically. I would just crumble and shut myself off from the world, which is obviously not good when you're running businesses and you've got children. So I thought, you know, there'd been all this chatter previously about I should apply for The Apprentice, and I thought, you know what, if I put myself in such an extreme environment and survive and don't die, then the chances are I'm going to be able to tackle anything going forward. Yeah. I mean, I was constantly convinced I was going to die of something. So, so it just made me go for it. I thought I'll go for the first audition/interview, however you want to refer to it, and just take it step by step and see what happens along the way. And then, fortunately, I made it all the way. And I remember just there, like getting ready to go in the boardroom, and it wasn't just a game anymore. It wasn't just a challenge. I was sat there thinking, shit, I'm going on The Apprentice. I'm waiting to go into the boardroom to meet Lord Sugar. What the hell? But yeah, that's my reasons why.
An incredible experience. But I guess what it has given you is a platform and a bigger voice than most people would have, to be able to do the amazing work you're doing now with women in industry and women in construction. And that's what I really want to talk about and highlight, because I think, you know, so many people can probably talk about The Apprentice for hours and hours and hours. Well, in actual fact, the amazing work you're doing is the stuff that, you know, obviously we've collaborated on Clubhouse, and you've got your Clubhouse room. Talk about this women in construction stuff and what you're doing and how you're trying to make a change, because that's the most interesting part, if I'm honest, for me.
Yeah, no, thank you. And again, like a huge shout out and appreciation to BiGDUG as well for sponsoring our Clubhouse room, because there's so much that I do all the time for free that your time is limited in what you can do for free and what you can do for, you know, I've got to pay the bills as well. So it's really appreciated that we can get a sponsor, not just myself and my partner in crime with this as well, Haley, and allow us to have that free time and the space to be able to plan and organise and progress with this. So great appreciation for that. But basically after The Apprentice, I was going on Good Morning Britain just doing, you know, like slots about some nonsense, but then some slots about construction and whatnot. And off the back of that, the chairman of the National Federation of Builders saw it and asked if we could have some meetings about me becoming the ambassador for women in construction, which obviously we did. And then I just felt a little like I was this ambassador for women in construction, but I was just an ambassador for women in construction, and nothing really much was being done other than saying I was that. And, you know, what is the point ultimately? So
which some people would be happy with, you know, some people would be happy of just being kind of having their face there and representing something and walking away. But clearly you
I just
did
think
more.
It's pointless. I feel like I'd be a fraud if I was saying, oh, I'm an ambassador for women in construction, but I mean, what am I doing for women in construction? I feel like if you're going to be given something or you're going to represent something, then also try and progress it as well. And as the stats stand currently, there's 13% of women in construction, only 1% of women on the tools working on sites. So obviously it's an embarrassment in compared to every other industry across the world. So we really needed to try and fix this problem. So in conjunction with the National Federation of Builders, we have built out a roadmap. We organised a roundtable with influencers, directors, decision makers, large organisations within the construction industry, and we heard all of our problems. We said what the issues that women have, the issues with attracting them, retaining them, etc. Built out a roadmap. We use Clubhouse as part of our research for this to make sure that we're listening to the women on the tools, we're listening to women who's been in the industry and not, so it's not just decision makers saying this, it's actually women's experience in construction as well. So we can build their issues into the plan and try and abolish these issues. So the roadmap is a plan to get to 25% of women in construction by 2026. The National Federation of Builders, this is going public in a couple of weeks when we go to press with it, but they're adding it to the website, and all members now, it's part of the National Federation of Builders policy, and all members have to sign up to this in the agreement that they're going to have 25% of women within their organisations and filter through to the framework of suppliers and subcontractors that they're using as well. So that in itself is humongous. It's
a huge deal.
And what we're now trying to do is get an accreditation for diversity and inclusion, which will be the carrot for the construction industry. So you will have, I mean, this isn't set in stone. This is the idea, by the way. So we're thinking of like a bronze, silver, gold accreditation, and maybe platinum, and then that would weight the tenders in the private sector, but to make it mandatory in the public sector. Yeah. And we're going to take that to government and say that we want sanctions on businesses who have not met these targets, or alternatively rewards for companies who do, such as it weights the tender when it comes to the procurement process. So it is not a small challenge. I've yet to speak to government about it, but we've got the backing of some huge the thing is, we need 35,000 people entering the construction industry every year. There's a massive skills gap shortage. There's huge issues. There's holes all over the industry, and there are many, many women who want to be in the industry, and there's many people, men and women, who don't even understand the industry. So we need to do something to progress that, and large organisations have the funds internally to be able to progress their own organisation, and everybody wants to be the first person to do something. I am not in this for money. I have no reasons to be. My company is fully diverse and inclusive, so I'm proud to say, and we have our policies all written out. What I act as in this is the catalyst to be able to bring all of these organisations together and not approach it from my company wants the recognition from this. I want everybody to be involved, and if you're the first ones to sign up to this, then we're going to publish everybody who does sign up as well. So then we will say, like, your organisations are going to get the recognition for being at the forefront of this. So it isn't one person, it isn't one company, it isn't one thing, it's the industry as a whole, and that is what it's going to take to ever move the needle, because we've been having these chats for 10 years,
And do you know what? I mean, I'm going to be quite bold, right? And I appreciate that I am on a BiGDUG podcast, right? But it's crazy that in 2021, we're having a conversation about the lack of diversity and the lack of women in a specific sector in the United Kingdom, let alone across the world, right?
Not just a small thing though, Luke. 1% of women on site.
Which is insane. Like, that's insane.
Yeah,
like that. I'm assuming it doesn't happen in any other sector.
In no other industries, not in the UK. We are, and I believe, I don't want to be quoted on this, but I believe we are the worst, or definitely one of the worst industries.
Well, it would be.
That's why in the world, in the whole
and
world.
Why do you think it is? Why do you think there is so not that many women in construction?
I think there's two key. I mean, there's lots of issues, to be honest.
Of course, I know.
A catalog of them, but
unwrapping that's a nightmare. I get that, but like top points, what do you think are the two key drivers?
Yeah, I think the two key issues are societal perceptions of the construction industry.
Sure.
People think that if you're going to be in construction, you're going to be on a site, labouring on somebody, it's very manual, you're going to be up to the neck in all sorts, and, you know, it's all about getting dirty. The people outside of construction don't understand all the different career opportunities, the prospects, the money that's involved in construction. So I think that's a big issue. And I think, secondly, attracting women is very difficult. I think people go in at an older age and there's no role models. There's no, you know, if I said, I remember my mum saying to me growing up, and my mum's a very headstrong woman. She always wanted me to have my own business. She wanted me to be successful. At one point, you know, she had 5 kids on her own. So she really pushed me to be very successful. But I remember her saying to me, you need to marry a man with a trade because you'll always have a nice house. And it was never, you need to go and get a trade. you know, it's just.
Wow, yeah, because you could build your own.
Well, that's it. And I could technically build my own. My sister-in-law's very successful. He's an engineer. She hadn't met her, obviously, when I was a child. So it's all these little things that we perceive that these are man's roles. And just the gender thing, you know, that's for boys, this is for girls. I do speaking in schools. And the other issue is people think that if you're in construction, it's a last resort. So I go to PRU schools, which is normally children who've been expelled from several schools, and they end up in a PRU school, and they send them on more work experience than actually passing exams. They do some exams, but not many. And this is no exaggeration. 100% of the boys, when I go in there, they want to have a trade of some kind. 100% of the girls want to do hair and beauty. Well, I've never been to a school and there's a girl said, oh, I'd love to be a bricklayer, or I'd love to get into plumbing. It's always the boys and it's always the girls, and the girls who want to do that. And I think the hair and beauty is the same kind of industry. If you can't do anything else, go on and do this. And it's this thought of, you know, if you're going to be a plumber, you're not very well educated. When you know, in actual fact, it's going to take you 4 years to get qualified to be a plumber. Of course
it is, and there's a lot of maths involved, and a lot of you know, working stuff out. And actually, like, I mean, some of my dad's best friends are in the trade. They earn a fortune. Like, they earn a good amount of money.
Exactly. No, and nobody knows that, do they?
No, and you know what? If you think about it from a logical perspective, right? There aren't that many women doing it. So clearly, if you did have really good women doing it, and they used that to their advantage and used a bit of marketing, they'd probably be flooded with inquiries, and they do really well, and they'd make a fortune. So there's an opportunity there for a lot of women to make really, really good, honest money just by kind of showing up.
There is, but I think another key factor that has to change very fast is site culture. So the majority of the women who I know who are in construction choose to go domestic, because being on a construction site is just so it's so difficult. But as part of this roadmap, one of the benefits of getting more women into construction is, I don't know if you know, but in the industry, we've got the highest divorce and the highest suicide rate and the highest mental illness rate across all industries. And I firmly believe that this is due to the site culture and this, you know, I hate to say it, but this banter that goes on site, that just is not.
Let's just say it as it is, Michaela. Lads, right?
Yeah, and I mean,
you
it's
know,
just. And they all
knows.
I think everybody just feels like they need to be part of this, and like, oh yeah, it's all like, this is what we do, and it's all funny, and it just isn't funny. And if it was that funny, then there wouldn't be so many young men killing themselves. And I'm not trying to be dramatic when I say that. This is actual facts. I think bringing more women into that environment will help that environment become more nurturing as well, calmer. And men don't react the same to women on site as what they do to men on site. And you know, there's a lot of men out there who speak to women terribly on site as well. But if there was more women standing up for that one woman, then that would all die out. So it would make it much easier for women to feel comfortable going into a site environment. Sure. Now, I don't care. I've been called all sorts on sites, and I've seen some real sites on site as well. But I was brought up with 4 brothers, and so I've seen and heard it all before, and it's like water off a duck's back. Not all women are the same as me. No, a lot of women don't have that confrontational nature. A lot of women, that'd be enough. You know, it's going to put them off, and they're going to leave the industry, and that is where we come up with a lot of problems.
As well as that, not all men are the same. You know, not all men are thick-skinned and can take banter to that level. You know, there are a lot of lads out there that are really sensitive, you know, and I guess it's a cultural thing within that sector and within that industry about being on site. But you know, that's a culture is a hard thing to change. But I guess what changes culture is people. If you get if you get a mix
100%.
of people in, then that culture then does start to change, you know?
And a good friend of mine said, and I'm going to use this quote for the rest of my life: if you can't change the people, change the people. And you can't change the people on site, therefore you need to start changing the people on site. And that's why I believe that if there's more women in there who are coming at it from a completely, and you know, some women will just blend straight in, fair enough. But as a whole, to generalize, which I don't really like doing, but to generalize, women will soften that site, and women will change the culture of that site. And men just won't react the same to women as how they react to the lads on the site, and for whatever reasons it's still ingrained in them, hopefully, to be more respectful to women. And I think it will just tone it all down. But there's small things that we can all do now. If you are working on site or you're running the site, they do toolbox talks. I don't know if you know what these are, where you know they'll go and have a talk about health and safety and you know, like sound and all that, and just incorporate into that diversity and inclusion. So just saying to people, right, that is the female toilets, and if there's women on sites, then you know, we don't want to be addressing them in this manner. If there's somebody from you know, we're inviting somebody from Albania here, can we please make sure that we're speaking to them clearly? We don't want any banter with them. They don't have the same sense of humor. Just these general rules, laying the rules of the site like you do for health and safety. Let's do it for diversity and inclusion as well. And it's a 5-minute thing, and just by saying that, you're sparking that thought and conversation, and that can change a site alone. That them talks can change a site alone, and it's a very simple fix.
Absolutely. Well, I think the work you're doing is amazing, and really admirable and commendable that, you know, you're just chucking yourself into something that essentially isn't a business and isn't bringing you an income, but you're doing it because you feel you have, I guess it's your calling now. You've kind of got to a point where you kind of feel like you want to make a positive impact, which is amazing. Really is amazing.
Yeah, I feel like now it's turned into my life work. But you know what I really want? I really want an MBE. So if anybody knows how to get an MBE, if I make this work and this all does get implemented, then I better get an MBE, because I really want to meet the Queen.
You just need to be nominated. That's all. You just need someone to fill out the form for you.
Oh, well, there you go. So if anybody's listening, knows how to fill out this form, put me forward for an MBE.
I mean, we can't not touch on what your business is, what your main business is. Do you want to just go through kind of what you do on a, like, to earn your crust? What, you know, because you're highly, you know, involved in the sector and in the industry. What brings your money in?
Yeah, so I have a couple of investment things that I don't really work on. I would just sit on the board of, and my main thing is a marketing agency, and so that business supports all the other businesses I have. So yeah, we're a marketing agency, but fixed within the construction industry, and we have the largest online and hard copy magazine in the UK. It's been going for 11 years. Design and build, yeah, which is amazing, and that's the key thing. That's the key thing. What I work on every day: magazines, websites, social media. All those exciting things.
All those exciting things. Amazing. Honestly, and anyone listening that is in the construction industry and wants to speak to Michaela, please reach out. Michaela, how do people contact you? What's the best way to speak to you?
Yeah, LinkedIn I'm all over LinkedIn. So just Michaela Wain. On my handles are Michaela Wain 1, or otherwise Clubhouse every Friday 1 until 2:30, and that's the best way. It's a new audio app. I have some invites if anybody wants them, that I'm more than happy to share, and just come in and have a conversation with us, and it not be, you know, there's no barrier between like on Instagram where it's a message and you wait 3 hours. You come and ask the question, you'll get the answer.
And just to highlight to everybody listening, your Clubhouse is amazing. And a lot of people go, oh, women in construction, I probably shouldn't join because it's nothing to do with me because I'm not a woman or I'm not in the sector. I remember the last time I came on, you had someone from NASA talking. That woman, she was fascinating. Yeah,
she's lovely. She's been on she come on again last week. I think she's coming this week. We've caught up a few times, but yeah, there's NASA scientists. We've got the director who's male, Ben Keenan. He's the director of Multiplex. We've had the chairman of the Chartered Institute of Civil Engineers, directors of huge companies, Galliford Try. You know, it's men and women who come on, and then also people from all different industries, from all walks of life. People from South Africa, America, New Zealand. Zealand, Australia,
Mhm.
Spain. We, you know, people from everywhere and anywhere who believe that women should be in construction and should have the opportunity. But there's also other industries that struggle, you know, so any kind of STEM industry as well. And
Yeah.
like the woman from NASA, I think she's going through a court battle with NASA. So we've shared our roadmap with her as well to see if she can get some help or assistance with that. So yeah, I think anybody who just feels that that passionate about diversity and inclusion seems to just land in our room, and then we find so many interesting people. It's amazing.
Which is amazing, and it is just, I always look forward to, and I have done since I've joined the couple, and obviously we're sponsoring it, but I actually genuinely look forward to sitting and listening for the hour and a half, because it's just, I find it so fascinating, and the conversations that you are facilitating and that are happening in that room and in that period about diversity and inclusion, and people really openly sharing their stories. Like,
Yeah.
it's just in a very public way, you know, because at the end of the day, anyone could be in that room. You don't know who's listening.
Yeah.
I just think it's really inspiring, and I take my hat off to you, Michaela. I think you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you, Luke. I really appreciate that. Yeah, and obviously, like I say, I appreciate the sponsorship, but more important than anything is keeping that room going. Like I say, for us, it's the research thing, but it's also the connections, and then the connections that the women and men are making with each other as well. And a lot of business is being done in these rooms. You know, it isn't just a let's come and moan about women in construction, as some people might perceive by the title. There's a lot of business goes on in our room as well, and the connections are made. They take it offline, and Ben Keenan's become a very good friend of mine now. We're hoping to do some kind of TV projects. We've got a couple of production companies interested. So there's a lot that can come off the back of it. We're actually doing a networking session towards the end of each one, now every week, 20 minutes. So everybody just get on the stage, and, you know, you say like, I'm looking to speak to Boris Johnson, and you don't know, you know, it might be two connections away. So people will come on and request whatever it is they want, whoever it is they want, and the rest of us will try and help out if we can.
Because Clubhouse is like LinkedIn supercharged.
Oh, it is. It is like LinkedIn on crack. Yeah, I absolutely love the place. I love LinkedIn, but
it's just, the guys that came up with it were very clever.
Yeah,
well done them.
Because it was in lockdown, I think people really needed that connection. And there's that many people doing well on it now that I think they'll struggle to let it go. You know, they'll struggle to move off the app. There's all other apps talking about buying them out or talking about doing their own version. But I just think it was the first one, and they got on the wave at exactly the right time when they needed to do it. Yeah, I
agree with you, and I love it as well. I think it's amazing. I don't think there's anything. I think you've covered it, and I think you've been amazing. I'm really, really, really grateful for you coming on, Michaela, and sharing your story and talking about the great work you're doing, because I just think it's so inspirational. Everyone needs to hear what you're doing and what you're trying to achieve.
Yes, and support us. And what else I'm going to do as well, I've sent off a petition to government. We need 100,000 signatures to ensure that it's, because I'm only meeting with one government minister, which is really infuriating, because I want to go into the House of Lords and just scream at everybody. There's only one that will come. There's actually a crossover around 4 different ministers who could pass what we're trying to do. So we're trying our luck with one first of all, because apparently they'd never come together. However, if I can get 100,000 signatures, then all of the ministers would have to discuss this, all of the ones who you know may be involved in it. So I will also send this on to you.
Send it over. Definitely send it, and we'll put it on our social channels, and anyone listening, go and sign that petition. Amazing job. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You've been an amazing guest.
Cheers. Thanks, Luke.